Hello everyone, I'm Taaka Awori, founder and CEO of Busara Africa, a Pan-African leadership development firm. Welcome to the Leadership in Africa Redefined podcast. This podcast seeks to do two things. One, change the narrative of leadership in Africa, and two, provide concrete strategies and tips for leading in an African context. We do this by interviewing amazing African leaders so that the narrative of leadership in Africa is defined by the best of us, not the worst of us. We share their stories and provide practical suggestions for dealing with the challenges of leading on this continent. We discuss, interrogate, and examine concrete leadership practices that work. We also look at failures that these leaders faced and how they navigated their ways back on track. It's an exciting and empowering space for leaders to thrive and engage. Subscribe to the show to become the leader you have always wanted to be. And if you like the show, be sure you rate it and review it. It helps others to find it. Thanks so much. Welcome to another episode of Leadership in Africa Redefined, the podcast. The nuts and bolts episode. Today I'm with my sister, Dr. Gillian. How are you?
I am very well. Very excited to be back and talking to leaders again. It's so important, and I think this is a gift to them. So
thank you.
Very happy.
Thank you for joining me.
Yes.
So today we're going deeper. We're picking up on some conversations we've had before. And because this is nuts and bolts, we're not just talking concepts. We really want to make sure we deal with some of the real practical challenges you're having as leaders. So if you recall, some weeks ago, Robert and I did a session on the rested leader. And we talked about the importance of replenishment. And we talked about the 7 types of rest. And then some weeks after that, all 3 of us were together, again, really saying, okay, there's one thing to be replenished, but still, there's some leaders who might be saying, but I do too much. How will I be replenished and rested if I do too much? So we had a nuts and bolts, all 3 of us, with some real strategies to implement if you really want to avoid being an overworked leader who does too much. Now, one of those strategies was around saying no. But saying no is one of those things that, easier said than done.
Yes,
now recognizing, especially in this context, especially on the continent, given all our realities. So realizing that. And realizing, Gillian and I often start with confessions, realizing that we're both guilty. At least I am. Let me confess for myself, not confess for Gillian. At least because I realize that saying no is one of the problems that is causing me to be a leader who does too much, is one of the things that's preventing me from being a truly rested leader. I thought, you know what? Let's do a nuts and bolts on learning how to say no. In fact, we're calling it the art of saying no, a leader's secret weapon. So, Gillian, maybe I'll start with you.
Okay.
Or actually, maybe I'll start with myself.
Yes.
And because since I confessed, maybe I should start by saying, why is it I am finding it so hard to say no? And I'll say, I think one of the big reasons is, yes, I am an African woman who has grown up in many places, but born on the continent and has spent the last, almost 30 years on the continent. And I realize in my cultural context, there's quite an emphasis, particularly me as a Ugandan woman and now having lived in Ghana for almost 22 years, I feel at least in those 2 countries where I'm from, there's a premium put on politeness and harmony. So even sometimes it gets to the point of artificial harmony. So you want to say no, but you can't. So there's this prioritizing, at least in these 2 places where I'm from. For some of you, depending again on your different countries within the continent, it may vary. But I see this common theme of this premium on we must all be happy together. Saying no can rub, particularly if you're saying no to those who have authority or those who have power over you. So saying no can be seen as rude or disrespectful, particularly if you're saying no, especially if it's to an elder or someone who is in authority. So I think that's so ingrained in me that I find it sometimes culturally when I should be saying no, I'm busy saying, oh yes, oh yes. when everything in the back of my hand is like, no. So I would say that's one of the first things. This cultural emphasis on politeness and harmony.
And, it ties into essentially the hierarchical structures that exist, because it's all about when you say no, you're seen as disrespectful, you're seen as not being loyal, you're seen as even sometimes taking food out of people's mouths, because what you may be saying no to has implications on others. Why not just say yes and go with the flow and get along with it? And there are also times that people struggle to say no because they are, even though it's not ethical, it is easier to go with the group than to stand on your own. And so it can be very difficult to find the courage to say no sometimes. And there's also this element, and I think this is where I am maybe more guilty, so I'll confess a bit. But it's the whole thing of proving yourself. And my struggle personally is not to prove myself necessarily to others. I have set such a high standard for my own self that sometimes it is difficult to say no, because I don't want to kind of lower the bar, my own bar that I have set for my own self. So I've come and held myself hostage to my own self, because I have set this bar that I need to keep pushing towards. And because I'm so driven and internally competitive, it's not about competing with other people, but I want to keep doing better than I did before. I take on things sometimes that I don't even need to. Just to say, yes, I can do it. And so it's really important that, we find ways to manage it, and we'll talk about it more. But you find people struggle because they want to prove to themselves or to others that they're capable of doing it. And they almost see, if they raise their hand and say, no, I'm sorry, I can't, then it's like you're weak or you're not capable. Or again, as we spoke about in a previous podcast, you are not worthy. So it's that self-worth that's all wrapped up in there as well, that we struggle to say no. And maybe the last thing that I would just say on that is that, based on my experience with many of my team members, I think there should be a class on teaching people how to actually say no. It is a skill. And there are many people who, they have the courage, but they still don't know how to do it and do it well. So I think, again, when you look at how culture and hierarchy and all of those things have come up, we need to also help ourselves to be able to say no, because we don't know how to do it, and it's a struggle.
And we'll come to that as part of the strategies. But you said something important, Gillian, that I think I want to lift up, is that when I first started to talk, when we first started this conversation, we were talking about saying no in terms of managing your time. But what I like that you've brought up is actually saying no might not be about, no, I can't take on this assignment, no, I can't take on this additional client, but it might actually be saying, no, I won't do that because it's unethical. And I think that's just as important in terms of leadership, because I think too many leaders are actually saying yes to things that they should never be saying yes to. But because everybody else is doing it, they're like, but after everybody else has said yes, when something in the back of your head is saying, no, this thing is not right. But you're not sure because there's such an emphasis on belonging, going with the crowd,
so the whole peer pressure.
And not that peer pressure, and not being like, why are you the one who is always so, are you the only one with ethics? Are you the only one with morals? Are you saying we're all sinners here? Why are you? So having that courage to stand alone then becomes key.
It's key.
So I like that. So it's not just about this conversation, it's not just about saying no around time, but it's also around values, it's also around ethics.
Absolutely.
There's one other, and this is again back into the spirit of confessional. Why do I find it difficult to say no? Sometimes for me it's the scarcity mindset. Particularly in the nature of the business that we have. You are like, okay, I mean, we've been doing well, we're getting lots of fantastic pieces of work, wonderful clients, but there's always a moment where you're like, hey, a client comes and you're like, If we say no and we look at our calendars and I think, oh my goodness, is Gillian free? Am I free? Is Robert free? Who is free? Nobody's free. And you're so worried that if you say no, they won't come back. So it's a bit of a scarcity mindset. And yet we are in a fairly good position. But I can imagine, I see that with many others. Jobs are hard to come by these days. Consultancies, assignments, gigs that you have are not easy to come by in these tough economic times across the continent, not just here in Ghana. So your fear is, I've gotten this nice gig. I've gotten this nice assignment. If I keep saying no to my boss, if I keep saying no to this client, will they come back again? Maybe they'll go to somebody else and then I will no longer be relevant. So I think our tough economic time and our scarcity thing makes us feel under pressure to often say yes, yes, yes.
Within that space as well, there's also saying no, and you are thinking that, do I want to, or can I afford to give up this money?
Yes.
So you find, and it affects especially business owners. I think, but even large corporations as well also suffer from this, because you weigh the balance between, this is money coming to me. Do I say no so that I can focus on the things that I really want to focus on as a business? Because sometimes when you say yes to everything, you end up deviating from
your core mission, your core business.
Exactly.
Yes.
And so it's a struggle, especially for new business owners, or especially when you are starting off, to say no because you're afraid of, well, I need the money, I have bills to pay, I have staff to pay. How can I let money go in the hopes of getting something? So there's within the scarcity, there's also that thing of, am I willing to really let money go out the door?
And by the way, it's not just business owners. It's also in the non-for-profit space, in the NGO space. We're also finding this. We know the funding environment has narrowed. And then many times there'll be organizations that are clear on their mission. Some donor will come around and be like, oh, we have some money to do this. Now, it's a bit off mission. Before you know it, you're saying yes to something that you really should have said that actually. But because you're like, ish.
Can I give it up?
Can I give this up? We're tight. We need, as you said, rent has to be paid, salaries have to be paid. So that pressure, that ability to say no when there's scarcity of funding around, then becomes tough. So we've already, in some respects, alluded to the dangers of that. So we all become overworked. We find ourselves doing unethical things. We find ourselves going off drift in terms of mission. The quality of our work again then becomes, because you keep saying yes, and then quality goes down. So we know the impact. We know why it happened. So maybe it's now coming to, as we do, because this is a nuts and bolts. What are some of the strategies that either, since we've confessed this is a challenge for us, that either we have used or we've seen some of our clients, the folks we coach, actually use?
I think you should start this time.
Okay. So, and I'm excited to start because this came up very recently in a coaching session I was in. And I remember I was working with a young woman leader, and she was saying that because she's so good, and this tends to happen to when you're so good at what you do within a team, everybody keeps coming to you. So she's a manager, but the senior manager kept saying, please, can you do it? Can your team do this? Can you? Because she's good, she's efficient, there's quality. So I said, at some point, sincerely, you are going to have to push back, because she was also starting to get work that was not strictly hers or for her team. But because her team was producing results, I said, at some point you're going to have to tell the senior manager, your line manager, no. And she looked at me like I was mad. She was like, what? And she says, do you know where I am? Do you know? How would I even start to say no? So again, remember how you said we need to be teaching this in school? Because I think the first strategy is how we reframe the concept of saying no. So I sat with her and we thought together, and I said, in our minds, no is just a blanket no. But I said, actually, there's different types of no's. And so let's work on what are the different types of no's so that you can maybe deploy the different types of no's. So I told her the first no is no, not me. So where she's saying to the line manager who gives her this assignment and says, oh, this is absolutely fantastic. But I think that the sales department is much better suited. Or I think, I think Robert is much better suited to this. I think I've even seen him. Can I work, not to say I'm going to give it, can I work with Robert on that? So you're saying, no, not me. I told her another no is no, not now. So you're saying, so the person is like, look, I need this report by Friday. And you're like, Friday is a bit tight. I'm not sure I can get it to you by Friday, but can I get it to you by next week, Wednesday? So that's a no, but not now. Huh? Another no is no, not all. So again, it's someone saying like, I need this report done by Friday. And you're like, eesh, by Friday, can I get you the outline? Can I give you the key highlight points? Or can I give you at least the results? So then I can get you. So you're saying, I can't do all of it, but let me get you some of it. That's the no, not all. And then there's the tough one, no at all. So the 4 I said is no, not me, no, not now, no, not all, and then the ubiquitous no. But remembering, and this is the reframing, remembering that saying no to some things allows you to say yes to bigger, important priorities. So that you can almost say a stronger yes to things because all your energies are not so dissipated because you've been saying yes to so many things. So by me saying no to this thing, whatever version of the no it is, I'm able to say a big yes to you. So that would be my first one. Reframe the concept of saying no.
You know, I feel like I can almost see the people watching this, and people are like, that's easier said than done. Yet
always.
Again, especially, there are many people who will say, there's no way I can say no, period.
Yes, maybe that's the toughest one.
And it's because it's just, they almost feel like they don't have permission to say no. Yes. So building on what you've said, I think a good strategy to help frame the no is using what I would say call a positive no technique. And so how that works is basically when somebody brings a request to you, whatever that may be, start by appreciating and acknowledging the request. So thank the person and say, okay, thank you for bringing this request. I think even unless it's maybe absolutely foolish, but barring that, thank them for the request and try and find something nice within the request that you can compliment and just to kind of, make them feel like, okay, you are not shutting them down immediately. Then, be clear, like find a way to say now using one of your
yes, no, not no's, now, or not
that okay, I hear what you're saying, but I am not sure I am able to do it now or do it all of it as you would want me to say. One of the things that I always tell both people I mentor and tell my team members or people on other teams is that if you go and you say, no, I cannot do it now, it may be that your boss says, actually, you don't have a choice. I need it now.
Sure.
So one of the things that you want to then do is say, okay, can you help me prioritize other things that I'm working on so that I can then do this now?
Yes.
So it is now shifting it almost into your no, not all, to say, all right, if you want me to do this now, then I can't do everything else that you expect me to do in the same time frame. So help me and let me know what, help me to choose. So put it back to the boss to say, all right, is there anything that we can maybe delay then so that we get this done now? So it's a bit of negotiation within that. And if it's, again, even within that space, when you're saying no, not now, or no, help me to prioritize, you can get them involved in the suggestion. So there are times that you can say, I've heard you, I think this is a great idea. Right now, I am not sure I can deliver it in the time frame that you need. Either help me to, or even be proactive and give a suggestion of, do you think I could delay this in favor of this? Yes. Bosses always like that. Leaders always like that. Even when you yourself are a leader, you still report to someone. So the leader above you, they always like when you come with solutions. But get them involved as well and say, okay, here's what I think. What do you think in terms of delaying? So I think that's one of the things that I've found, like a positive no can be very helpful in not going through with something. That would be one strategy.
Hi folks, hope you're enjoying the show. So have you heard about the Africa Leaders Circle? Our impactful e-learning platform that enables you to grow into the leader you would want to follow? here is a message to tell you what you need to know.
Are you a CEO, executive director, or HR manager that is looking to build a pipeline of leaders that are ready to step up into management roles? Are you looking for a self-paced learning platform that provides your leaders with quality content and does not take them away from their work for too long? Are you looking for a program that enables your managers to move from knowledge acquisition to demonstrable improved practice? Then look no further. Sign them up for the African Leaders Circle today. The African Leaders Circle is an e-learning platform that gives your managers access to an exclusive community of leaders across the continent and a wide range of strategies and tools to stand out. We do this through online courses, discussion forums, a library of resources, and a personal learning advisor to support each of your managers to maximize their learning on the platform. To learn more, visit our website www.busara-africa.com.
Don't forget to visit our website busara-africa.com to learn more. And now back to the show.
I like the positive no because in many instances we're afraid that our no will affect the relationship. And now I want to think about a no, and we've talked about it almost a no in the context of saying no, managing up, a no to an assignment. But if we go back to the instance where you are the executive director, you are the CEO, and you need to say no to a client that's not a right fit. Or you need to say no to a funder that's bringing in money that you know is not a right fit. Your positive no can be very useful. And that one is not a no, not now, because you know that's never going to be a fit for you. That's not no, not some. Maybe sometimes you might be saying, well, some of this funding might be useful, but maybe sometimes that is a flat no. But I think your positive one where you're thanking them, but saying this is not a fit for us.
And if you can provide a suggestion.
An alternative, yes. Would you have alternative funding that better fits the kind of, or if it's a partnership, yes. I think I would add to that, you know, we're coming up with all these ideas, and when you hit you in the face, somebody's asking you, like, now, what did they talk about in that podcast? What were those? No, not me, not all. So I think another strategy is to delay your response. Buy yourself some time. So it's almost saying, thank you. Let me think about that. Let me come back to you. I really appreciate it, but I need to see how this works with the department, the team's priorities, with my organization's priorities. I think that gives you time to then figure out how to come back in a positive way, to be able to ensure that you are not harming the relationship.
People also appreciate when you even seem to be thinking about the request.
You've not just
versus
said
exactly an immediate
dismissed
no.
It.
So I think that's a brilliant point because it makes people feel heard. And feel like, okay, this person, they're going to even think and process what I've said. So even if they come back with a no, then, okay, at least I feel like they've heard me and instead of just shutting it down. Maybe I would add another one about, when you're saying no, make sure that, or try and align your no with organizational goals. And I'll give you a practical example. So there was a company that was going through, we're in a financial crisis. The company is going through the financial crisis and has to, one of the ways or one of the options that they have is to reduce transportation allowance for staff. Now, the leadership team says to the CEO that, no, we don't think you should reduce the allowance. We think you should let go of a percentage of the company, let them go so that the rest of us can keep our full pay. And I mean, depending on where you're sitting, you would either agree or disagree. But in this case, and the CEO was strong enough to say, you know what, I hear you, but I think I am going to stick with reducing transportation allowance for everyone for two reasons. One, because we are in a crisis, but if in a crisis we're so quick to kick people out of the door, it will destroy trust and credibility that will take us a really long time to recover from. The second thing was that, and this is coming back to aligning it with organizational goals, there are times when you can do something or you can give a response that is suited for the short term. It doesn't have to be a long-term thing. And the CEO could see that, okay, if I reduce transportation allowance for a few months, we may be able to get out of this crisis and bring it back up, and everybody still has their job.
Yes.
So that was how they were able to say no, to say, based on the long-term benefits for our organization, it is better to keep people, keep trust, and then everybody takes it on the chin for a bit, and then we recover. And true. About 4 months later, they were able to restore it. Everybody still had their jobs. But there were some people who fought against it and said, no, like get rid of, like it was about 30 or 40% of the company they wanted to.
Because they were thinking of themselves as usual.
Exactly.
I like this alignment. Another example, I think, where you can use this alignment to organizational goals. Because as you said that, it made me realize how, again, and this happened a lot during COVID, where many organizations were tightening their belts, the demands start to come. You know, we need this, we need this, we need this. And many companies and organizations finding that, no, I can't raise salaries. I can't do this. And for many leaders, it can be hard to say no to those demands. And yet, you know, to ensure the viability of your organization, you do need to say no. So to ensure that it doesn't seem callous and you're not thinking, it's alignment with organizational goals or alignment with your values. Being people-centered, to say, you know, actually, as much as I care about you all, as much as you don't benefit if we go out of business.
Yes.
Because I've just kept saying yes. But I think many times people have to make peace with the fact that, and we should have said this as one of the key strategies, make peace with the fact that people will not be happy with you.
You can't make everyone happy.
And this is make peace. You can't. You always say leadership is not a popularity game. So just understand that there will be moments when you utter those words, somebody is not going to be happy. But knowing that the greater good, your leadership effectiveness is going to mean, as you said, that not everybody would be happy. I would say in that respect, tied to aligning with organizational and I think goals and the positive no technique is something that I've done a lot, which is offering alternatives or resources.
Definitely.
For sure and I do this a lot because when I look at my calendar, I'm looking, for instance, at the next quarter, it's like choked. So we'll get lots of requests that unfortunately I have to say no to. But if I'm going to say no to a client, it's always saying, but I have a team member who can do this, or I have an amazing associate who can do this, so that I'm not just saying, sorry, busy, taken. It's providing those alternatives. So that saying, if I can't fulfill a request, I'm suggesting someone else who is able to do that.
And you know, even with, there was an example you gave before about during COVID.
Yes.
And we have a global financial crisis anyway. So everywhere people are needing more money because expenses have just gone through the roof. But in one case, and there's a company that I'm working with, of course, they're relatively new, but the staff are saying we need more money because transportation costs have gone up.
Yes.
Everything we live far is costing too much. So they couldn't afford to pay people more. But what they were able to do, coming back to your alternatives, is say, okay, then maybe what we'll do is half of the month you work from home.
Okay.
Half of the month you come to the office, so that at least we help offset the increase by not or demanding that you come every single day. So there are things leaders can definitely do to try and meet their staff or meet team members or clients halfway. It's just sometimes you have to get really creative, think outside the box, and let go of the old way of doing things.
Yes.
What
would be your last two strategies, maybe?
Definitely, what I would say is two things: transparency and consistency.
Okay.
So with transparency, I think it's the more you are transparent especially within your organization about what is happening, the realities of your organization, it helps manage people's requests. It does not manage all of them.
Yes.
Like seriously, I have had a situation where in one company, they're struggling.
Yeah.
They are struggling to make ends meet. Business is not what it is. Business is maybe 25, 30% of what it was a few years ago. They still managed to give staff a raise of 10%. Immediately after that, you still had some employees saying, but please, we're hungry. We still want more money. And so that is where, as a leader, you'll need to know that you can't make everybody happy, but at least be transparent.
Yes.
At least if you tell people, more people will understand than not.
Yes.
So I think transparency helps with your no, because then they know that you are not lying.
Yeah.
For me, the biggest one, though, I feel, and one that I've seen happen time and time again, is consistency. A lot of leaders, they're not consistent with their no. And by consistency, I mean ensure that your no is fair. Ensure that if you say no to somebody today about request A, you will say no to the next person tomorrow
about request A.
Yes.
Yes.
Don't pick and choose based on the person's level or the size of the person's nose, whatever it is,
or how argumentative they are.
Exactly. Be consistent, because that will kill your business or your organization more than anything. When people feel that, she's a favorite or he's a favorite, so if that person goes, then they'll always get the request. Meanwhile, I'm coming, and it happens. It can happen across employees. It can happen at all levels.
Yes.
The important thing is be consistent, because if not, it will kill your credibility as a leader. It will kill it.
Yes.
So I think more than anything is, when you do say no, let your no be no. The Bible says, let your yes be yes and your no be no. In this case, let your no be no. If people know that you say no, it's consistent. They will know you will always say no to this.
Yes.
Let your no be no.
But I think what you're saying, though, because there've been times I've said no to things, and I've rethought, and I've said, well, actually, I should have said yes. But what I hear you saying, it's not that if you say no, you can never go back, but be consistent and fair. So I shouldn't say no to Gillian because I don't like her. I don't think she delivers. And then I go say yes to Riga because I like him. He always gets his job done. So it's that consistency across.
And if your things can change, you're absolutely right. 6 months from now, something may change, and
you start to say yes, and it to
becomes
that request.
A yes. No problem. This is where transparency comes in. Then you go back and you explain what changed to now shift your no to yes, so that anybody who is looking on would understand that it wasn't just because of favoritism. It was because something changed that now allowed you to say yes. That's where, for me, the two are linked.
But it means, even as you talk about that transparency, again, it's back to things we've talked about. When Robert and I, when we did our episode on resistance to change, we talked about the importance of courageous communication. When you talk about your transparency, often these are difficult conversations to have, about being open with folks about these things. So I think the ability to be able to say, this is where we're struggling, now we're doing better, but also being comfortable with conflict. It's coming back to realizing that no's come with friction, and realizing that's part of leadership. As you say, you can't make everybody happy all the time, as long as you're fair and consistent. So let's I want to summarize. We've given you lots of strategies, folks.
Absolutely.
We said the first one is reframe the concept of no, and remember I said it could be different versions of that. No, not me. No, not all. No, not now. Or no, period. Number 2 was to use the positive no technique. So appreciate the request or whatever it is and ask about alternatives. The third was about delaying your response. So saying thank you, but give me a time to consider this and think through this so you can think how to come back. The fourth was aligning your no with organizational goals. So if you're saying no, it's because people can see the reasoning. It's enabling you to fulfill certain organizational goals. The fifth was offering alternative resources. Remember, I said I can't do it, but maybe my colleague, my associate can do it. The sixth and seventh that Gillian just elaborated on, the sixth is about being transparent about your priorities. So if I'm saying no, it's because this is what's on my plate. If I'm saying no, it's because this is the amount of budget we currently have. So being transparent And then the final one with Gillian did an underline with red line with black marker. She says, be consistent in your no. If you're saying no to Taaka about X, then you better say no to Riga about X. Don't say yes to one person and no to another. So those were our 7 strategies. Gillian,
Absolutely.
take away.
It's been a good conversation because I think in all things there's good and bad. And even with no's, there are good no's and there are bad no's. Most importantly, I would say is we need to always think of the people who are on the receiving end of the no's. Put yourself in their shoes. And always think about how would you want somebody to deal with you when saying no. I think it's really, really important, and it will give us perspective in how we say the no and the context in which we say the no. So more than anything, as you recapped quite aptly, be consistent in your no, but think of the person, put yourself in the person's shoes. If you do that 9.99 times out of 10, you will be able to say no in the right way.
I like that. I think my takeaway will be that you're not saying no for no's sake. You're saying no so that you're able to say yes, and an even bigger, stronger yes to something you prioritized. You're saying yes to your ethics. You're saying yes to your values. You're saying yes to your time. You're saying yes to your excellence. So this is not a show about you going now or as leader saying no, 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 no. It's really about saying how can you say no in a way that allows you to say yes to those things that really matter to you and your team as a leader. So thank you all. Thank you, Gillian. Always good to have you.
It's a pleasure. Very, very happy.
Folks, thanks for joining us. As always, I end with my 3 requests. Please, number 1, please subscribe. Number 2, please share. If you have a friend, another leader who just that word gets stuck in their mouth, they cannot say the word no, please share this episode with them. And finally, would love to hear your feedback. So please rate, review the show, and tell us what is that one thing you're going to do differently so you're better able to say no so that you can say yes to those priorities. Thanks so much and take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello, wonderful leader. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the podcast. I learned a lot, and I hope you did too. If you want more of the lessons, experiences, and nuggets for effective leadership, join our amazing platform for leaders, the African Leaders Circle. Learn more at www.busara-africa.com. And if you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and share with other amazing leaders. See you soon. Ciao.